Hello and welcome back to the 2013 U.S. Chess Championship. We have some big news. I'm Jennifer Shahade. This is Grandmaster Yasser Seirawan, and it looks like those stats about the Marshall Gambit are going to have to be, Marshall Attack rather, as they call it, are going to have to be revised slightly because out of the 5,500 games, which Black had a resounding edge in, we're going to have to add a +1 to the white column here because John Bryant, one of the lowest rated players in the tournament, qualifying by the U.S. Open, looks like he's going to bust out Gregory Kaidanov here in this game. He just played this really nice move, F5, which caused resignation. There are just too many pins and skewers here, right, Yaz?
Exactly. F4, F5. Something had went wrong from Gregory's point of view a little bit earlier, but the moment White was able to sacrifice an exchange, grab a couple of pawns, this move, bishop E5, putting the bishop in the middle of the board, central domination. Black had no attack, and suddenly with this move F4, F5, it was all over.
It's over because let's look at some of the variations.
Oh, sure.
If he now if he tries to play bishop takes F5.
Right. So, whoops. There's my mouse. Right.
We recapture with the knight.
Knight takes F5.
And then after rook takes F5.
Yes.
Now after bishop takes D5.
Yes.
You just can't hold on to all your pieces, right?
Because if we take with a queen, we've lost this rook. Queen takes rook. And if we take with a pawn, oops, that's even worse. We lose the queen.
So the traditional way of playing the Roy Lopez and grabbing the pawn lives one more day today.
Exactly. One further point is after knight takes, queen takes, now, as you were mentioning, too many pins and skewers, and this move, bishop takes D5, there's just one single check, we step aside, and this rook is hanging, this rook is hanging.
And buenas noches.
And buenas noches. So very impressive victory by John today, as he, as you mentioned, one of the lower rated players in the tournament, has scored 2 victories and 1 draw to put himself amongst the tournament leaders.
And in a pre-tournament interview with FIDE master Mike Klein, who's also doing a lot of the reportage here for the Chess Club and also for Chess Life, he interviewed Bryant and asked, what's your goal in this tournament? And Bryant said, first place.
Well, that's the right attitude.
And he's on his way if he continues to play like this, despite being one of the lowest rated players in the field. Now we're going to get him on the air in just a bit, and we also have another exciting guest in studio today. It's a Sunday, so we've got a lot of visitors from colleges in the area.
A lot of dignitaries. I'm very happy that Anna joins us. As she's on our Lindenwood team, and I am being paid to coach the Lindenwood team. After you get a chance to meet Anna, you'll realize instantly that I'm not being paid enough.
Wait, don't you mean the opposite? I think you meant the other way around.
I was hoping you'd pick up on that. Very good, Jen.
You just sound so smooth and collected. So, yeah, we're going to have them with you in just a minute, right? Okay.
Well, thanks, Jen. With me is Anna Sharovich, 4-time Belarusian champion, I believe, yes, and commentator as well. She's done fantastic commentary all around the world, visiting us, and you are on the Lindenwood team. And I asked this question earlier of one of your teammates: is Yasser Seirawan a good coach?
You know, he's the best.
You know, players stay refrain all the time.
He doesn't look at the data.
Indeed. I think we have a microphone problem, so we'll just wait a moment. We'll throw it back to Jen and Yaz.
All right, sorry guys. Well,
I love that one, Anna. Well done, Anna. Yay! I'm not going to give her any homework for the next month.
hey, that's not the way to get her to the next level, right?
No. Really, it is a great deal of fun to work with so many very, very promising, talented young people, and to coach the Lindenwood team is really a great pleasure.
Oh yeah, it's so much fun, and it's great when they also have interests outside of chess. You know, I know Kostya Kavutsky is tweeting us like all sorts of little jokes he's putting in through the broadcast. And
well, Nolan wants to come on and share some stories, but I told him no, not those stories, not those stories.
We're having a lot of interesting tweets about the women's championships, actually. I think we're going to address one by Robert Bernard, who goes by Bionic Lion online, and he hashtagged to U.S. Chess Champs as well. And he asked about the rivalry between Irina Krush and Anna Zatonski, whether that was mostly something that we commentators and reporters like to hype up, or whether it was really real. And I would say that the truth is somewhere in between. A few years ago, I would say that it was extremely real, because there was this infamous playoff game before the championships were in St. Louis. Mm-hmm. So that would have been 6 years ago. And Anna and Irina were so neck and neck that they kept splitting games in the playoffs. So
right.
They had the same number of points in the tournament. They kept splitting games. And finally, they had to go to this Armageddon game.
Right.
Where it was sudden death, and it was only 5 minutes to 4 minutes. And
right.
Pieces were just flying. I mean, it was like something you would see and when you have a few drinks and play with your cheapest chess set so nothing gets damaged, right? Pieces flying all over the room.
Coffee house blitzing.
Exactly, and Anna ended up winning, and it was very controversial with fans of both ladies, like, just kind of jumping in and making noise. And I think after that, there was a period of real animosity. But then, they've been teammates on championship Olympic teams for so long, and I think they're on good terms again, and the rivalry is more solidly on the board.
Right, exactly. I mean, when you play on the U.S. Olympic team, you want your teammates to do exceptionally well so that the team can collectively win a medal. And although you do have intense rivalries, like you see, for example, between Gata Kamsky and Hikaru Nakamura, when it comes to team competition, they really are supportive of one another. So that little mixture makes you mellow and chill a little bit more.
All right, it looks like our guests are ready for take two here.
Okay.
Grandmaster Maurice Ashley and Women's Grandmaster Anna Sharovich.
Indeed, back with Anna Sharovich. So you were saying that Yasser is a great coach, and I think we got cut off right at that point. What makes Yasser such a great coach?
Well, and you guys are lucky to have him here like every day. And Jen, I'm so jealous that you're sitting next to Yasser like the whole day.
Yeah, Yasser's always been Mr. J Smooth, He's cool even back in the day.
Yes.
So you are a commentator. What is it like seeing this kind of setup? Chess has really been growing in recent years, and the technology has been so much better presenting the game. What have you seen on the international level?
Yeah, I'm very happy that chess is growing like a commercial product, that we're able to sell it. Well, and it's really great that TV is very interested in taking part in covering the tournaments, and especially, U.S. championships. I think that it can be considered an example for the rest of the world how it's organized here, because, for example, taking into account my experience, it wasn't on this high level, like the technique side of the project. So it's really cool. I'm happy for you guys that you're working like with just this kind of technique.
Yeah, it's great to know that this is the best you've seen so far. What are you doing here at Lindenwood? I mean, you're far away from home in Belarus.
Yeah, I'm pursuing master's degree
in
public administration.
Very good. And you're playing for the team? Have you had a chance to play for the team yet, or play any matches, or play for the Pan Ams?
I'm playing for Lindenwood. Yeah, it's a great honor for me to play for American University. And actually, we're in Pan Ams, we're so close to get into the Final Four. The last round we were playing against Webster B. And we had really good chances.
And Webster's right here as well. Are they your main rivals? Is it a big deal that Susan Polgar has come with Webster team and you're at Lindenwood? And there's got to be some rival. You're here in St. Louis.
Well, I cannot say that we are rivals. Susan's team, they are on the high level because they have like longer history. We have just started. Our team hasn't existed even 1 year. So we are on our way to improve and to grow. So that's why I think that we can just look at them and try to develop and ask for some advices. Why not? It's more like you know, they're like older brother or sister for us. So it's, when we're playing tournaments, yes, this is kind of rivals, like normal sports, but our attitude, we respect them a lot.
Indeed. So finally, what's your next project? Are you going to be doing any more commentary on the international stage anytime soon?
Well, right now I don't know, because recently it was in March in Kazakhstan I was commenting the Women's World Team Championship, and actually the US team was taking part there. Well, in the nearest time I'm going just to study, you know. And well, it will be summer break for the tournaments, like for the university tournaments, so probably till fall. We're not going to play for the university, but maybe some tournaments, like open tournaments, I don't know, Chicago or some other tournaments.
Well, we wish you the best of luck in those events. Thank you so much for joining us. Anna Sharovich, four-time women's Belarusian champion and wonderful commentator, and apparently a fan of Yasser Seirawan. Go figure. Jen and Yas.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Anna.
Apparently she's jealous of me. That's very flattering, you know.
You're loved too.
Lucky me. Lucky me.
You're loved. You're always loved.
Those of you, you know, watching online, you didn't get to see Anna's shoes because I'm jealous of her.
Ah, yes, yes. Very, very good-looking shoes, I must admit.
Well, let's go back to the Women's Championship.
Exactly.
So we've got Zatansky and Crush, the battle of the Women's Championship here.
Right.
And we just addressed the rivalry, certainly rivalries on the board. Somebody mentioned, we also got a tweet from Kostya Kavutsky, one of Anna's teammates at Lindenwood, and he said that these guys should have decided over the board rather than on playoffs.
Right.
I mean, in his words, whereas Zatansky and Crush don't want to play another playoff, their fate gets decided right here, right now. Well, certainly the opening for that attitude, because the Kings Indian is so double-edged, it's less likely than other openings to peter out into a draw in the early stages.
Precisely, and it has gone into a double-edged game. Irina did get to advance her pawn with g5, g4, knight c4, Anna. This is where we had left it. What Anna is trying to do on her side of the table is to take possession of the b6 square for her knight. Well, Irina on the other side is simply aiming all of her forces against White's king and trying to deliver checkmate. This move takes on g4. That was a little bit of a surprise for me. In truth, since Black has invested so much time advancing the pawn to g4, generally Black likes to keep that tension, but Irina had a very specific idea in mind, which was to develop this bishop on c8 that had been spectating in the game, and at least to give her rook some freedom of movement. After bishop g4, queen f2, again, notice that White, is aiming to control the square b6. We had the moves bishop g7 to f8, takes, and now king h1. Okay, what Anna is visualizing is that there's going to be a future rook g7, so it's a kind of a prophylaxis move. She gets her king out of danger before that danger even appears. And now knight h7. That's a nifty little move. Intention is very clear by Black to bring the knight to g5, putting pressure on f3 as well as e4. And bishop b4. Well,
pressuring that d6 guy.
But on the other hand, it's already protected, so let's see how... Ooh,
well, queen b6 could be on the menu at some point.
From White's point of view,
yeah.
queen b6. So
hanging
that
up on that pawn.
Very important
and
idea.
as usual, we don't have any problem trading queens.
Black would have a big problem trading queens. So queen f6 again, preparing when necessary, or simply if necessary, to defend the pawn with rook d8.
And now after rook c2, we have another rich struggle, which we'll come back to. But let's take a quick look at our first board in the championship section, Gata Kamsky versus Christensen, before we go to our in-studio guest here.
All right. At this moment, when we had left it, there was that beautiful little pirouette idea that Maurice had shared. After this move g4, Maurice pointed out that knight on c6 could go to d4, attacking the square c2. He looked at the various captures, found them wanting, suggested rook c7, and then there was knight e6 with the idea of taking control of the f4 square. And I liked Larry's position after that nice little strategic maneuver. That didn't take place. After g4, b6 was played, and then the players have played, I don't want to say routinely because that's never really how they play.
You get into trouble if you play too routinely in a time control like this.
Exactly. I would rather say that the players have played normally up to this moment. Notice that White's pieces are sitting nicely using this e4 square. In one case is for the knight, now for the bishop. Still the jury's come out as to who.
Whoa, what happened there?
Yeah, exactly. Whoa,
right,
whoa.
So a5, knight a5.
b5. Okay, b5, knight a5, knight e7, and Kamsky just
Bishop
exploded
c5
with bishop
with the
takes
idea of knight
c5.
b7. Okay, so if rook takes c5, there's a knight b7 move.
With a fork against rook and rook here. Let's assume one of them protects the other. I'm not sure exactly which way. In this case, what we would see is White's rook on a1, which had been doing nothing, grabbing this pawn, and this looks very unpleasant for Larry in this position.
Very strange in this tournament. We've seen so many imbalances over rook for two pieces. It's pretty extraordinary.
Yeah, we get it again.
Well, in this case, that's just a variation because Larry declined that variation. Instead of after bishop takes c5, it looks like he played knight f4, counterattacking on d3.
And h3 as
and
well.
And h3, true.
Yes. So then do we have, and bishop simply dropped
And this brings
back.
us to the board position. So we will be right back to this game. But now let's go to John Bryant, who is now on 2.5 out of 3, one of the lowest rated players in the field, and he's just playing fantastically, and he's with Maurice.
Indeed, Jen. John Bryant, giant killer, we're going to have to call you. Congratulations on your victory today.
Thank you.
Well, did you expect to see Gregory Kardashev play a Marshall gambit? I mean, Marshall is pretty sharp opening. Did you expect to see it?
No, it was a surprise, but I did look at it a little bit because he has played it before.
And you went straight for what looks like a main line. You accepted it. Most players these days declining it on the highest level. And the host, Jen and Yaz, were pointing out that the stats tend to favor black in the Marshall. But you seem to want the pawn and just grab it and go for it.
Yeah, I don't think that White should ever be worse. There's so many lines that lead to White having a pawn up with a opposite color bishop endgame, and that's how black draws. But being lower rated, if that happened, I don't think I could be unhappy with that.
Very good point. Very good point, as a matter of fact. Well, this position occurred. It looked like you were doing just fine, and then you played this explosive move, c4, and after he took, it looked like his position was under tremendous pressure, as if it was about to collapse here.
Yeah. I'm the one attacking now, so.
So you felt very confident right at this moment.
Yeah, I was. C4 was probably one of my top 2 favorite moves of the game.
Top 2. All right. Well, take me through the next few. He played the move rook a to c8, and you played this move rook e6.
Yeah.
And just tell me, what were you thinking right at this point?
Well, I thought that he only has 2 moves, rook d8 and rook f6. And rook f6 is pretty bad.
All right, so he played this, and then you just stole a pawn. I mean, you're playing Gregory Kardashev, one of the great players in the country. Did you just feel like, so what?
Yeah, well, I just saw that after f4, the game.
Oh, I see. So you were prepared to see f4 happen, which in fact did happen, and you sacrificed here, and then you ripped off this pawn, collecting a ton of pawns for the exchange. Clearly, and after rook over, bishop to e5, another attacking move, piece drop back, and it just looked like you were rolling here. Rook to c1. And when did you know, like right at this point here after f4, did you start seeing the tactics based on the interference, or did you just, when you saw queen e6, you realized it was a blunder?
Well, I just figured f4 was a really strong positional move, and then after queen e6, I looked at some moves and eventually came up with that.
So you didn't see f5 right away?
Well, like bishop d5 was in my considerations earlier,
Right.
and so then I just added the idea of f5 interference.
Beautiful move, this move f5, interfering with the bishop, and take us through a variation. If bishop were to take the pawn, which looks like the most natural move, how would you finish?
Knight takes f5. Well, with whichever way he takes, I take his knight on d5.
So let's start with the rook, maybe the most crushing. Bishop takes d5, and now
whichever way he takes, if he takes with the c pawn, then it opens up my rook, adding an attacker on c8. And if he takes with the queen, then he's removing a defender from his rook.
So you win big time. Matter of fact, yeah, pretty devastating position. Wow, that's a cold cut crush. You're now sitting on 2.5 out of 3. You're one of the lower rated players in the tournament. What's your feeling going forward? Actually, I heard a comment when you were asked what would constitute a successful tournament. You had a 2-word answer was first place. That's pretty brave stuff. Are you still feeling that way about the tournament now?
Well, going into the tournament, I wasn't so sure, but now I've gained confidence. I got a good mood now.
Fantastic. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
FIDE Master John Bryant, one of the lower rated players in the event, 2.5 out of 3. Pretty special score right now, and looking pretty good. Jen and Yas?
Beautiful beginning, and I guess it just goes to show in order to have this type of spectacular result, you have to aim high.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, set your goals high and try to achieve them. And John is really lighting up this 2013 event. FIDE Master, not even the Grandmaster title, 2.5. A lot of players are looking at him and saying, wow, who is this young man? Again, I mean, very, very special result.
And he could get norms at this tournament as well.
Absolutely,
so
kudos.
That'll be another nice thing to watch out for. So we were just looking at the Kamsky-Christensen game, the key battle here today.
Absolutely, our board won between our 2 perfect scorers in this tournament.
And we have another result while you're pulling up the position. Katian and Schulman was a draw.
Ah, okay, very good. We had this position. Maybe this was an overreach by Larry because probably he missed this bishop takes c5. He did go for knight f4, which, as we've seen, does fork white's pawn. So black does not lose the pawn, but giving up this pawn on c5 had to have been an error in my view. Knight takes h3. So Larry wins back his pawn, but white is happy to trade that h3 pawn, which is on the far side of the board, for a central pawn like the c5 pawn.
This is much more likely to become relevant pawn,
Precisely. And with this move d4, essentially, I think Gata has established, I'm not going to say winning position, but a big advantage for Gata at this moment in the game.
Well, okay, so advantage Gata, and we were also getting into the Irina Krush and Anna Zatansky battle, so let's keep popping over to that one. We only have an hour left in the time control, and I think this is going to start to clarify.
And this game has been heating up. It's almost been like a slow build, you know. You just put put a pot of water on the stove, and slowly bubbles start magically appearing, and before you know, it's a cauldron. And check this out. Remember, I'm talking philosophically about the opening, how black is supposed to go student body over to the king side, and white's supposed to go student body over to the queen side. And just check out this formidable looking lineup of pieces along the G file with this last move, rook f8 to g7.
That's scary looking.
It is, indeed. And from white's point of view, all of her pieces have kind of massed a little bit over here on the queen side already. So, like I say, when I'm white in these positions, I don't like everybody aiming at my king. So I'd feel nervous with Anna's position, but this is the nature of this particular defense. So with rook c7 busts through on the queen side.
Exactly. We really do want to trade off at least a piece.
Some of those attackers.
Exactly, because we don't, I mean, that's the only way to defend by attacking in the King's Indian, right? You can't really, I mean, you see examples where people manage to set up a fortress on the king's side and play like G4 or whatever, but for the most part, we don't really want to touch those pawns, and we're just not going to be able to bring enough defenders over, so we want to defend by trading off the enemies.
Right, right. Get rid of those strong attacking pieces. Here, this is an interesting. I'm not so happy about Arena's decision. Rook e8, e7 here. I see this bishop actually as being a stalwart defender of this g2 square, and maybe I'm wrong, but my initial gut reaction would be to capture that bishop and bring my bishop to h3, hoping that I could bring an assault down on the g2 square. I'm not saying white doesn't have defenses. She obviously does, but that would have been my approach to this position. Arena shows rook e7.
Yeah, maybe she was afraid of taking on g7 and...
Sorry, in this line with knight f3, let's say taking on g7?
Well, first or second, yeah.
Okay.
And then after...
And maybe something like
maybe rook g1, kind of similar to Irina's win against Elena Katz, just kind of doing the unusual and actually occupying the g file as white here. And she thought that, didn't like this position for some reason, perhaps?
I don't know. I think this bishop is a real nasty animal. Sorry, I'm working on perfecting my arrows. It does both on the offense and defense, and let's just clear the, rook g1, let me make that move, sorry. And let me just clear the g file for a moment. I think it's anybody's game here. I think it's still up in the air. All three results are possible.
Absolutely. Maybe now Anna will try to hit on the d6 pawn, play knight c4.
Right, so knight c4 makes perfect sense, going after the d6 pawn. Again, I'm clearing the g file, so I'm hoping that in the future one day this move knight h4 might cause some discomfort.
And we have Grandmaster Maurice Ashley with apparently some bad news for Ray Robson.
Breaking news.
Indeed, a terrible position about to take place for Ray Robson. You know, pawns are tiny. We call them the soul of chess. But they're so tiny you think they can't do too much damage. Well, in this game, Strapunski's H-pawn is doing a world of hurt on Robson's position. Take a look here. In this moment, Robson played the move E4, seemingly attacking this knight on F3. Unfortunately, that actually wasn't the case because of this pin along this line. So he couldn't quite take the knight. So Strapunski ignored it and played this move H5. So in order to get this threat going, Robson played the move bishop e7, thinking, you know, I get to take your knight now. Except Strapunski ignored him and captured on this square. And now if pawn takes knight, then suddenly this move queen to e6 check, and the king goes in the corner, queen takes f5, and the queen has all the plans in the world to go to h3 and then deliver a nasty checkmate. Let me get that right. A nasty checkmate down on h7 and possibly h8. Too much of an attack. So he had anticipated this, had Robson in this position. Let's get back to here. And so he played queen to d7, guarding the e6 square, except suddenly the move knight takes e4, bam, coming out of nowhere, sacrificing this knight. The point being that if pawn takes, simply queen takes, and the pin is back on the e-file. But more importantly, the queen is thinking about exiting stage right and getting this checkmate again on h7 and possibly h8. Nothing to do about it. He's simply going to get crushed, is Robson, and it's looking really bad for the collegiate. The collegian, you know, the college players have been complaining that it's probably not the right thing to do to be doing finals and then the very next day try to play in the U.S. Championship. I think this is proving them right. Jen and Yas?
Wow, poor Ray Robson.
Yeah, big ask playing what Maurice just said, preparing for the finals and then getting a different kind of exam here at the U.S. Championship.
Absolutely, although for some players like Sam Shanklin, I think they are already finished.
Yes.
And I think Robert Hess as well, so it depends on college to college.
Right, but it's close enough that you hardly recover from the exams before you're here in the U.S. Championships. And again, Ray has been, recently he played in Brazil for the U.S. team, one of our shining lights. He had an outstanding result in Brazil, helping the United States qualify for the World Team Championship. So the United States owes its success to Ray Robson. I thought, as did Gregory Kaidanov, that Ray came into this tournament as not a favorite, but it's certainly a dark horse and a person who could easily upset the field. Having a bad breakout of the start. He lost and drew, and looks like he's losing today, as Maurice just showed.
Too bad indeed. We should actually take a look at a game that we haven't seen in a while by two of our top scorers, Holt and Ramirez.
Exactly.
How's that game going?
I haven't looked at it because we just had a little bit of a freeze on our technical position. I would like to just go back to that position for a moment on Gadakomsky's board. And I was saying that poor Larry was suffering mightily in that game.
Yes.
Sorry.
No, indeed. Yeah, we were looking at that game, and even though we thought Larry's opening was good to rehash, it seems that Larry missed a little
tactical combination. If you look at the webcam as we're seeing right now, I saw just that. I mean, I've played Larry so often, and I know his mannerisms, expressions so very well. There he gave that little grimace as, you know, got recaptured on d4 with the bishop. Was like, so Larry's bearing down, but I think he has already done too much damage to his position.
So that would give, if Kamsky manages to win this game, that would put him a half a point ahead of the field, and the only player who would still be in contention for that Fisher $64,000 prize.
Absolutely. Don't forget, a perfect score gets the $64,000.
Exactly. Very unlikely, but.
But yeah, well, a 3-0 start is the ideal, right? If you're going to win it, you got to start with 3-0.
That's the only way to get there. And we've had a couple questions today, because earlier Maurice was talking with Priyadash about the World Championship, which is going to be held in Chennai, India. Right. And we got a couple questions about who we think is going to win that match. Will it be Anand or will it be Magnus Carlsen?
Mm-hmm. Okay, well.
Your thoughts?
Definitely, I'm happy to share. First of all, I think that the FIDE did make a mistake already, literally out of the box. As we know, just a few weeks ago, Magnus Carlsen, the world's highest rated player, did win the right to challenge world champion Viswanathan Anand from the candidates tournament in London. So I fully expected, as did I think every chess fan who has followed chess for the better part of 10 years, expected a bidding process, an auction where cities around the world would put forward their best bid, and the highest bidder would win the competition to host the championship.
Oh yes, I heard a rumor the other day that Paris was going to host it, and I was just having these fantasies of flying from Philly to Paris and eating a croissant.
You and me, baby. You and me both.
Watching Magnus, you know, play a beautiful sacrificial game. It was like all replaying in my head, and then.
And then. What really surprised was about a week ago is that FIDE announced they had signed an MOU, a Memorandum of Understanding, with organizers in India and Chennai without the bidding process. Whoa, 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 said Magnus and his managers. What happened to the auction and the bidding process? FIDE said, we've never received a complaint. The Norwegian Chess Federation promptly sent a letter of complaint to the FIDE, keeping in mind that in the FIDE, the members are federations. I, an individual, cannot complain. Mm-hmm. It's the member federations that complain, hence Norwegian Federation complained. Very shortly after the Norwegian Chess Federation complaint was published, it was announced by the French Federation that they were looking to host the match in Paris. Then today I heard from the internet essentially that FIDE confirms that Chennai will host the event, completely ignoring a bid from Paris that is 30% higher.
Well,
financially higher, monetarily speaking.
I see. Well, I mean, I certainly, I'm sure that no matter where it is, it'll be a fantastic match, and the organizers will do a great job hosting it. Of course, being so much closer to Paris, most of our listeners here at the club and our American audience might prefer to be able to take that 8-hour plane ride. But I'm sure the Indian people would be very excited because it's supposed to be so popular in India, chess, right? And Anand is absolutely a Michael Jordan there, right?
Right, and he is a national hero, simply put. And so the Indian people and the Indian organizers would love to host the match, but it kind of goes. So hold on, I mean to go backwards and forwards. So
yeah, who's going to win the match? That's what we want to know. Who's going to win?
The problem, as I see it, is there going to be a match? Is Magnus going to be very unhappy about the way the FIDE handled the awarding of the match that he's saying, no, I don't like this. It doesn't feel right. Let's just have a proper auction. If the Indians win the auction, I will play in India.
Still stalling on the question.
Right.
We'll put you on the clock.
Okay.
When we're back from Maurice, who's got something from Christensen and Kamsky, we're going to ask for a one-word answer from you.
Okay.
Get it.
Well, a truly stunning development in this game. It turns out that it looked as though Christensen may have been worse, as Yaz mentioned, but actually the computer says he was completely fine. But then he blundered horribly, and Kamsky missed it. Well, let's take a look at the details. In this position here, the computer says that after pawn takes, this move, knight to b4, unveiling an attack of the rook on this bishop, was very strong for black. And in fact, if rook over to d1 protecting it, this fantastic move, knight to d3, blocking the line so that this rook can still attack this bishop, would have been very powerful. The move bishop to e3 was its best suggestion. And then this move, total chaos, not total chaos, but kind of crazy. You have to look at this to calculate to make sure everything's okay. But according to the computer, this would have been a nice way to go. Instead, Larry played the move knight to e6, attacking the bishop on d4. And Kamsky had a superstar move right now, knight to c6. Looks like the knight is hanging, but if you capture, then suddenly pawn takes comes with a fork on both these pieces, the knight on e6 and the rook on c6. Definitely better for white here. But Kamsky, in turn, missed that idea, and instead, he simply captured on d5 here, and black is back in the game where knight takes d4. According to the computer, this position is equal. So some crazy things happen in the space of just 2 moves, and the fight continues. Jen and Yas?
Wow, some fantastic tactics there. You know, it's funny because several years ago, before computers were the monsters they were always good at that kind of stuff. Those surprising moves, especially the ones that are in the short term, but you just wouldn't look at. Knight c6, you know, random like little weird sacrifices. And Chabalov, just who's one of the most creative players out there, was saying how useful it was for your calculating skills to really go through those types of tactics and train yourself.
Right.
So
test yourself against the computer because they're so tactically adept.
For those things. So yeah, it's not exactly surprising to see players of this level miss things because that's what makes us human, right?
Right.
A lot of people miss things.
Right. Well, you've got your blinders on. You see a specific line of play that, in a sense, you've chosen to accept. Like, you're expecting your opponent to play this, you'll play that, and so forth and so on. And so there was that little nuance. But to be frank and to be honest, Gata Kamsky, a world-class player, usually picks up on those little tactics, and maybe he's not feeling 100%. But,
maybe not.
In any case, a full-bodied struggle still ahead, and all 3 results possible.
Even with the queens off the board, there's plenty of fun to be had. Yasser, you're not getting off the hook with your one-word answer.
Right. I'm favoring Magnus.
Even though, but you think the location being India will make it a little closer, probably, right? That's a home court advantage.
I don't see it that way. I actually think of it as a negative for Vichy, because we understand in sports that the home court advantage is very, very real. But in the world of chess, can you imagine all of these Indian journalists across the whole body of India want to have interviews with Anand after the game, before the game, how you doing, what are you doing? Anand, obviously the Hindi speaker, none of them are going to be running after Magnus, so I'm thinking that it's actually going to be a handicap.
Interesting, and I guess it's
Vichy.
I guess it's also the fact that for World Championship, the challenger will come so early, so that question of jet lag, not used to the food, all that thing, because you have so many resources when you're playing for the World Championship, that wouldn't be as much of an issue if, say, you're traveling on a sports team and have to go to a new location every single day, or you don't have the resources to, really pick exactly where and what you eat. But let's take a look at the Robson game, because I'm sorry, not the Robson game. We already it's not over yet, but Maurice was showing us how it's almost over. So yeah, let's see if he was able to finish that in style.
Okay,
that was a Strapunski against Robson.
In the position, I think that Maurice was sharing with us, he was mentioning the march of the H-pawn as being a very rather devastating undercutting of Black's position.
And it happened.
And
now Queen H5, so
with the direct idea of checking the Black King and forcing it out.
Now Queen D5, a very clever move. We've seen so many times in this tournament how bringing the queen into the defense is often the only way not to lose immediately, right? So here the Queen H7, King F8, Queen H8 can be met by Queen G8.
Right.
And this is how the game went.
This is how it's happened.
And now Queen H4 trying to nibble the other way. Yeah, well, Knight H7 is a massive threat.
Exactly, and oops.
So in order to get out of that, what does he do?
Well,
he needs to maybe move his rook forward?
Rook E5 or Rook E7, perhaps, one of those two moves in order to meet this check with
King E8,
exit stage right.
That's what my hope, but the problem is you can take on E4 at some moment and it looks pretty ugly.
Well, let's keep in mind for all of Ray's fans that he does have an extra piece.
Yeah, true.
You can win this pawn on E4, as you just mentioned, but there is an extra knight. The question is more about this king. Is Black's king, after a situation like Rook here? Actually, I'll take it back. Let's start with Rook E7.
Feels a little safer?
Yeah, let's not take away what might be a needed defense with the knight to E5. And let's imagine this position for a second. At first, I think Ray's doing okay. I don't see this as being... Am I missing something? I don't see the decisive blow.
You don't see a decisive blow here, no.
One thing that is interesting is if White is allowed to just simply play the move Knight F7, the Black Queen on G8 could find itself imprisoned. But otherwise, at the moment, I don't quite see it.
That's a really funny queen trap indeed. And then maybe it's not. And then if we put our queen on H7, you can just ignore it. If you take it, we take back, and we're gonna make a queen. But so instead of rook takes G4, how about we try your move, Knight F7?
Knight F. Oops, excuse me. Let's go back. So after queen here, let's say, oops, I'm sorry, I'll get it right.
Okay, yeah, it's your move.
Rook E7. So we can try Knight F7, as you say. And I'm thinking that Black's king wants to run over to safety, King D7, and just kind of hopscotch across the board. White could capture this pawn on E4, relatively speaking, at any time. Why don't we just start with that? And maybe the queen should just kind of slide over to the protection of the rook. Still looks to me like it was anybody's game.
So it looks like we've got a continuing mess here, and it could end up in one of our favorite imbalances of the tournament, even the rook versus two pieces. If black were to sacrifice the rook for the knight on
Right.
L7
Once
earlier,
again.
because that was another option. As soon as I played knight F7, you could have just snapped it off and
Right.
tried to see how that looked.
Jennifer, I got to bring us back to the game between Anna and
Key
Irina,
game?
because that not only is our key game, it may, I think, will decide the women's championship.
True, although it's so early that even if Irina or Anna wins, theoretically the other one could just like go on a tear and make up for it. It's possible.
Oh, sure. So we do have this situation with knight takes f3. I was thinking that this was the key move a little bit earlier, but fine, better late than never. And this move of Anna, knight c8, I don't like that. That looks like an overreach, but okay. The bishop just dropped back to the f8 square so that this pawn is protected on d6 sufficiently by bishop and queen.
Well, yeah, it's similar to the variation we were looking at, except that now if rook takes g7, queen g7, knight takes d6 is possible. So that must have been what Anna had in mind.
Yes, but why don't we recapture with the king?
Yes, okay, so that's the difference. You can recapture with the king, and now
And keeping
e5 is adequately d6 rather is adequately defended.
Exactly. So this
And we
looks
have
just
to-
simply good for Irina.
It
in
looks
my
very
view.
weird. Yeah, is this how it went?
No. What happened was, oh, pardon me, bishop f8, yes, rook g7, king g7, knight b6, bishop back to e7.
So after knight c8, she just realized that she was mistaken. Maybe she hallucinated and forgot that king takes g7 was possible. She went back to b6 where her knight is now safe again. And Irina replied with bishop e7. Maybe she's going to get something to the h4 square soon. Anna pins her down with queen g1. And you just like black here because black's pieces seem to be much better coordinated.
I just like black here because firstly she has the two bishops. Secondly, it's white's king that is being cornered, not the black king, after a move, for example, like king h6, escaping the pin for a moment, or perhaps maybe even safer would be, say, king h7, keeping the square g8 and just preparing a maneuver like knight h4 so I could play bishop g2. That's some threats that white has to be prepared to deal with, and maybe the initiative has swung in the favor of Irina exactly in this moment.
Absolutely. It's hard to miss a beat in the King's Indian. Now, Anna will try to defend in this position. For instance, maybe she'll play something like knight f2 to harass the main offender here, that bishop on h3.
I see. Yes, indeed.
We have to do something. We can't just, if we allow this knight h4 move, I think it's going to be busto.
Well, in fact, that move knight f2 is simply excellent because the bishop has no safe squares to retreat to back along the diagonal. So knight f2 would definitely put the kibosh on that. The move queen g1 is therefore a very sly little move by Anna. Remember, Maurice was pointing out those retreat moves that end up winning material. Well, I just fell for one. I mean, that's a pretty threat.
And we do have a couple more moves in the game, so you might want to update the game.
Sure.
We have, it looks like after
knight, okay.
Looks like instead of your move of king h6,
which loses, she played bishop to d8, attacking the knight. So knight f2 would, of course, be a terrible blunder because bishop takes b6. So knight c4, and again, keeping up her attack against the d6 pawn, bishop c7, simple defense. In this case, what Irina has done is she's made it possible for her to retreat her bishop.
Or d7, yeah.
And bishop e1. So white releases her assault against the d6 pawn because she wants to protect against a near future knight h4. So she played bishop E1.
And now it's Irina. I think more moves have been played.
Okay.
And it looks like, yeah, these two are playing pretty quickly. I mean, we
The
are
time trouble may be a
approaching
factor.
the end of the hour here. It looks like Irina has 46 seconds according to the official website.
Wow.
USChessChamps.com/live. Anna's got about over 4. And they've got 4 moves to make here.
Wow.
So this is extremely tense. And it looks like we got knight c4, bishop c7. What else has happened?
Then king,
Is that all we
bishop
have?
E1, king F7.
Bishop e1, king f7. So getting out of the pin, and now knight h4 could be in the menu again, except now this bishop is guarding that square on e1. So what's going on here?
And you were talking about how earlier in the game, Irina was kind of removed, easygoing. Now if you look at the webcam and you see the intensity, now both ladies are locked in, focused, and Anna's showing a little bit more tension than her opponent, even though she has more time.
Now we're going to go right back to this game, but first let's take a look at Robson with Grandmaster Maurice Ashley.
Well, Jen, we all know the feeling that after a game you think you've played really well, and then somebody points out to you, usually some joker, that you missed a vicious tactic. Also, the computer does this to you too. I've played this many times where I go back to the room thinking I did something great, put my moves in, and turns out that I didn't find the best moves, and in fact didn't find a move that I would have been extremely proud of. Well, Strapunski had a move for the ages that he missed. When you see this, you're going to not believe it. He had this attacking position where he had sacrificed a piece for the attack, and he played correctly with the move queen to h8 check and queen to g8. And right at this moment, it looks as though the queen is under attack and needs to back out. But in fact, he had an incredible queen sacrifice simply with the move rook takes e4. And now, if queen takes queen, then knight h7 check, and the king cannot move over because of rook takes rook, checkmate, game over. But in this position, after knight to h7 check, if you play queen takes on h7, white throws in rook takes rook check, forcing the king to capture, and after pawn takes queen, that pawn is going to promote to a lady, and it's lights out. Well, it turns out Strapunski's still winning, but I think he would have been really proud to finish off this game in this fashion. Jen and Yas?
Wow, what a beautiful variation. I love in some tactics books they have a chapter on pawn promotion, and there's usually several positions related on that, and just stunning to really see it in a game.
A very artistic finish, and nice catch. Unfortunately, again, by the computer, missed by the human. That would have been a beauty.
You can't see them all.
Agreed.
But you know, the nice thing about chess is that a lot of the beauty is in the variations, and that's why it's great that we're able here to comment on and show some of that, because sometimes the most gorgeous variations aren't actually played. With Anna Zatonski and Irina Krush, we are really more in the time scramble mode, where Irina has less than 55 seconds. Now, we should point out there's a 30-second increment, so she's not going to lose on time unless she freezes. It does happen,
it does
but rarely.
happen. Yeah, 30-second bonus each time the players complete their move, press their clock. They are awarded the Fisher bonus of 30 seconds per move. Now in this position where I think it's terribly imbalanced, the two bishops for black.
Bishop f2 was played, by the way.
Bishop f2 was played.
Irina's 55 seconds ticking down, and she did play a move. It looks maybe like a...
Knight h4. I'm thinking she's playing knight h4. I'm not sure what she played.
We'll find out momentarily.
Okay.
And I think that we are at move 39 now.
She did play knight h4, by the way, and that move sets up a devastating threat that has to be addressed. Bishop g2 check would win white's queen. So I think Anna's intention is to play knight to e1, which both defends the f3 pawn while protecting against a check on g2.
Yes, and I think we have seen those moves on the board, actually.
Okay.
So knight e1 was played, and now we are on move 39. So just 2 moves left for Irina to make time control and chill a little bit. Maybe go get some tea.
Well, I tell you, nothing feels better in the world of chess when you've made the time control and you can get up and take a breather, because your heart's been pounding at an incredible rate for the last little while there. By the way, again,
B5, by the way, Irina played.
B5 by Irina. The game between Gata and Larry has exploded. It's like wild stuff again. I don't even know how Black's pawn got to G2. I think we should go to Maurice and ask him if he thinks it's something decisive has occurred on board one between the number one ranked Gata Kamsky, the pre-tournament favorite, and Boston's own Larry battling Christensen.
Yeah, and I think Maurice is queuing that up, and it seems like, meanwhile, in our top board for the Women's Championship, they are just about to make time control, so we will see how that goes. I mean, it does seem like things after time control might peter out, while I think the activity of Black's pieces is to be preferred in that Zatonski Crush game. I'm not sure it's going to be enough without rooks on the board and with so many trades.
I like Black.
All right. And here we go with Maurice.
Well, before I get to the Gatakomsky game, it turns out Ray Robson, who looked dead in the water, is now back in the game. I mean, incredible turn of events. Let's go to it. We saw earlier this position where Shapunsky had that fantastic finish, and we all know when we're in time pressure, what happens. You start playing quickly, you just flub it, you make some bad moves, and that's it. Well, in this position here, Alex Shapunsky should have dragged his queen back off of this square, but instead he went for a tactic he thought was good, and he played knight to f7, and after rook takes on g6, he thought, hey, I'm winning the queen here with rook check, king takes, and rook takes queen. But after knight takes, he gets to look at the position and think, wait a minute, the guy's got a rook, a knight, rook and two knights for my queen, and now white is no longer winning. So Robson somehow pulled off this miracle in time pressure, and he's back in the game. So the Robson fans have to be thrilled that this happened. Now, going to the other game, this explosion that you talked about, guys, it looks as though the computer thinks the game is slightly better for white, only slightly. We'll have to play the moves through to see what is actually how this actually occurred. But right now, it looks as though black is fine, and the game should end in a draw. But who knows? We've seen a lot of stuff happen here at these championships. Jen and Yas?
Well, I just have to see how they do that, Jen. I'm not sure wow, Larry and Gata evening up. I thought that, I can't imagine how how this black pawn managed to worm its way to the G2 square. This is like a salmon swimming upstream.
Now, I should say we have some breaking results coming in. This is the time of the day where blood is spilled.
All right.
Jorge Samor Hasbun beat Mark Arnold. That's his first victory of the event. Alexander Shabalov moves to 2-1 with a win over 12-year-old Sam Sevian. Mean Shaba.
Bad Shaba.
And then Alexander Onashuk has won against Ben Feingold. And we had looked at that game earlier, and you quite liked Onashuk's just aesthetic Queen's Gambit edge. So he pulled that through and now climbs to 2-1.
Okay, well, number 3 seats showing why he was one of the pre-tournament favorites. This is a position, we just want to go back a move or two. This is a position that we had more or less left it between Gata Kamsky, white, the number 1 seed in the tournament, versus Larry Christensen. We got to a position like this. Larry went for f4, knight f1, g2, rook takes d4, and now we see how that pawn magically arrived on the g2 square. That's amazing. Knight e3, bishop to c5. Nice attack against the rook. Bishop's looking good. At the moment, this work on a1 isn't working. Let's see how Gata continued. Rook g4, check to the black king. King retreated in the corner, and now knight c6. Makes sense, bringing the knight into play with a gain of a tempo against the rook. Rook takes d5. So Larry tossing out an exchange sacrifice. Knight takes d5, and black to play. And the computer thinks that white stands only a smidgen better after the best move, bishop takes d5. This is what the computer considers the best move. then it's natural to bring the knight back into play, knight to b4, attacking this pawn on b5. And the computer reckons that with this pawn on g2, backed up by the bishop on d5, white is only slightly better.
Well, we keep seeing these two bishops throughout the championship, and imbalances galore. Speaking of a man who never shies from an imbalance, we have Grandmaster Alexander Shabalov, who now has 2 victories after losing his first-round game to Gadakonski, and he is with Maurice.
Indeed, we lovingly call him Shaba, and he's with me now, Alexander Shabalov, hailing originally from Latvia, from the Latvian school of We Don't Like Your King at chess. Shaba, congratulations on your win today.
Thank you.
What was it like playing a 12-year-old? I mean, he's a little guy.
Well, not exactly. And he's a sensation of this tournament, and it's not the first time I'm playing him. So I know him a little bit. I know he's extremely tough. I've seen him win in our World Championship in Maribor in Slovenia. So believe me, I was that serious before this game. And so the opening was like very balanced, equal position in the middle game, and then he went after this pawn on a4, allowed me to create an attack, which was not that clear, but he was like in a severe time trouble, and that wrapped the things up.
Indeed, that's very tough. Now, you lost your first game. I mean, 0-1 is not the greatest way to start a tournament, although you've done it before and come back and won. I've seen you do it. And then in the second game, you were dead in the water against Zamora Hasbun. I mean, it looked like it was all over but the crying, and somehow you pulled off a victory even, and now you've won today. I mean, what you got some lucky rabbit's foot, or what's going on?
I don't know. That's exactly what happened a couple of years ago here when after a couple of losses, I was dead lost against Melik Hachan, and I was like even more dead than I was against Jorge. And somehow I pulled out the win, which was the beginning of my like finish. Like, I don't remember what I scored, like 4.5 out of 5. So, well, the loss against Gata was like a hard, pill to swallow because I was so much better after the opening and just allowed him to get, out of equal position, and then it was just like one-way street. I mean, he played fantastic game, and yesterday, well, what can I say? It happens.
That's the professional attitude, right? It happens. You just got to play the next game.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, hopefully, I don't know how Jorge is doing today, but
he won today, actually.
Fantastic. Yeah, I mean, he's not the guy who's going to quit. That's all I want to say.
Indeed. So moving forward, you have 2 out of 3. Any thoughts about the next round?
Oh, we'll see. It's just like, I mean, I'm glad, I'm out of the
the basement
trouble. Yeah, I'm out of the trouble, out of the. You call it basement, we call it the girls' room.
Oh, you shouldn't say that with Jennifer.
Anyway,
you're going to pay for that one.
All right, well, we'll see how it goes.
With that, congratulations on your victory, and best of luck in the rest of the tournament. I hate to do it. Back to you, Yaz, and probably a fuming Jennifer Shahade right now.
Thank you.
Oh no, the girls' room.
The girls' room.
I never even heard that one before.
Me either, but I like it.
I hope it sounds better in Russian.
I like it.
Well, let's take a look at the U.S. Women's Championship. Anna Zatansky and Irina Krush have just made time control.
All right.
And
we'll bring that on our board.
And it just as Shabalov was talking about the boys, I was thinking about sending that knight on b6 to the boys' room on a8.
The knight on b6 as we see.
Just because I love playing knight a8. And if I can play knight a8 or knight h1, I'm always looking for it.
Yeah, where did you get? Where did you pick that up? Nimzovich's knight h1.
Exactly.
Where's the knight a8? What's up with that?
The knight's tour, as we say, the Koldanowski specialty here.
The knight's.
Well, no, I don't think knight a8 is really a serious move. I'm just like pretty upset here about that knight on b6. It looks like white's pieces are a bit overworked. Like everything's defending each other, right? Like
that's right.
We've got our knight on e1 defending f3 and g2. Our queen is like hanging on by a thread here. We're hanging on to our knight on b6. If it could get attacked another time, it would be goodbye.
Right.
So I'm feeling uncomfortable for white here. I feel like there's no more clear weaknesses or way for black to increase her edge, but white is not feeling comfortable here with that knight just hanging in the air.
Agreed on all counts. The problem is, as you just very correctly described it, it's hard to bring any more firepower against the knight on b6, so that's fine.
Knight a8 would probably lose to bishop a5, though, for what it's worth, right? I mean, like, because if we can remove that knight on e1, it's like, it's really bad.
Yes, well, that is the one thing that Anna desperately wants to avoid.
I mean, you would have to bail out with bishop h4 or something, but, yeah.
Bishop h4.
But that looks pretty ugly.
Is that a bailout, or this knight on a8 is making a terrible impression? No,
Exactly.
We don't want to go there.
No, maybe a4, though, at some moment. I mean, but again, right now, if you do it, maybe black would just snap off on a4 and then play bishop a5 again. So that could be irritating as well.
Exactly. I'm thinking that what Anna might do is try to prepare that move a4 with a move b3 followed by a4 so that she can cement her knight, keep it well protected with a pawn on a5. Computer, even though we agree white's pieces are tied up, it reckons that Arena's advantage is a smidgen. Only
well, interesting. A lot of times it's
two-fifths of a pawn.
Good for Anna that she's made time control, because this is the type of position, if you're in time pressure, very difficult to defend as white. With the extra 30 minutes, she might be able to hold on to all of her pieces.
Yes, yes.
And you know she does not want to get sent to the little boys' room, right?
The little boys' room. Oh, I think you misheard. I'm sorry, Jennifer. Let me help. Okay.
Well, we do have another really exciting interview on tap.
I do want to say, in passing, by the way, I don't think we mentioned it. Caden did, unfortunately, the Grunfeld did not survive against Var's treatment of h4, h5. And we do have a result that Varusian Jacobian has won with white against 14-year-old Caden Trough.
So Caden Trough started excellently, but has
got
lost
to first board.
Has lost 2 games in a row, but what an incredible experience it is for these youngsters, and I think we're going to be hearing more from them in the rest of the tournament.
Without question.
And now we have another victor from the U.S. Chess Championship who is down here to talk with Grandmaster Maurice Ashley.
Jen, we are with Jorge Zamora Hasbun, who I remember seeing as like a 10 or 11-year-old in the now defunct Manhattan Chess Club, playing blitz against Jay Bonin, sacrificing pieces. Everyone knew he was a tremendous talent, and I've watched him grow over the years. Congratulations on your victory today.
Oh, thank you.
Well, what is it like? We saw the first game, you blundered a piece, oops, against Kaidanov when you didn't have to. And then yesterday you were just completely crushing Shabalov, and that was a loss. What is it like after those 2 rounds to have to now think about playing today and to having a clear mind?
Well, I mean, it's not easy because I think typically when you're playing and your opponent outplays you, I think you kind of feel good if you lose. But the game against Kaidanov, I mean, it was painful. I mean, I dropped a piece in a position that is objectively equal. And against Shabalov, I just found like the best way to lose. So I started thinking how much talent I have in screwing up positions when I'm better. And today I almost did it again.
Really?
Today, I mean, I got a free pawn out of the opening, and then I managed to give my opponent a lot of counterplay.
Well, but in the end, you won, or relief, to be sure. What do you do now? I mean, you sound like you're down even after this victory. How are you going to get your head back to play the rest of the tournament? It's a long way to go.
Well, I mean, can I even get worse? I mean, I think like the worst thing already happened to me. You know, I lost 2 games, and now whatever goes, goes. I mean, it's just a tough tournament. I mean, it's whenever you drop half a point or a victory, I mean, it hurts. Especially with these guys, you know, I mean, they don't give you anything for free. So every game is a fight. So like today, I was just hoping not to lose. You know, that was my goal. I woke up this morning, I'm like, not 3-0, please.
Indeed. Now, your first U.S. championship, when you're the tender age of 16, did you think that it would be this long before you got back on the mat?
Well, I didn't think it was going to be that low, but somehow I think I did a lot better back then than what I'm doing right now. So, no, I mean, I'm actually happy that I got the opportunity to play.
Cool. Well, we wish you the best, and hopefully you get a clear mind for the rest of the competition. Congratulations
Thanks,
on today.
Thank you.
All right. Well, Jorge Zamora Hasbun, having won a game, I know what that feels like. You know, get your first victory. Feels good. Have a good dinner. Jen and Yas?
I think Jorge just hit us with the quote of the day. I figure out the best way to lose. I just hadn't heard that one before. In Seattle, we seized the defensive, but figuring out the best way to lose. That was very good.
That's good, yeah.
I'm going to use that as an original, by the way. Thank you, Jorge. Where do we stand, Jen? Where do you want me to go? Show me the way.
Well, let's see. We haven't looked at the Ivanov-Shanklin game in a while.
All right. Let me bring that up on.
And I'd also like to mention a result. Elena Katz drew against Hatev Abrahamian, and Abrahamian was on 2-0. Elena Katz has 2 draws under her belt now, and last year she only got 1.5 points out of the entire tournament. So 1 out of 3, considering that she's played 2 of the 3 favorites in the tournament.
Right.
She is. I'm not saying that she's happy, but she's certainly poised to do better than she did last year.
Very
and
good.
here we got Ivanov and Shanklin.
Yeah, this looks like a scrappy affair, but it's very funny these days. First I count the material and I go, well, Sam's got a extra pawn, and then I kind of look and see, well, where's the compensation? And I don't see it. So my first impression, we're going to have to go back a little ways, but that Sam Shanklin stands extremely well and is well on his way to winning. So a lot of decisive games, it feels like to me, in this round. Maybe I'm missing something, but everything seems to be going crazy. People aren't making safe, sane, boring draws that my generation lived upon. But here we go. And
they are keeping us entertained.
Definitely, it looks
great. That is for sure.
And the last move was rook. So rook c8, c4. Imagine for a moment white were to take this pawn. Bishop takes on b7. Holy cow. Uh-oh, looks like I'm allowing a mate. Can you see the mate?
Oh no, just rook g4 is at the position.
Exactly.
And then
after king h3.
After we take on h5, we're actually protecting the rook with our bishop on e6.
Don't hate that.
Yes, king takes g4.
Not allowed, not allowed. That's the kind of move I try to make against my kids in the lectures that I give. And they go, no. And I go, I'm the grandmaster. I can play king takes g4. And they go, no, you can't.
Yeah, and then you teach them en passant, and they really think you're fiddling with their mind.
Then they think I'm weird. Yeah, that's it. But here, I'll tell you what, Jen. How about a tricky one? How about if we play rook takes as a prelim? Can I hope to get away with this grabbing, or is it still rotten?
Certainly looks dangerous because we can still play rook g4, but then after king h3, we have rook h4 or rook g1.
And that same threat, that looks decisive, doesn't it?
I mean, we would have to, it looks like the end.
Awful.
We would have to play king h2, but...
And maybe we just go over here. So this is not saving
just picking up too many pawns.
Exactly.
Well, we do have another guest with us in Grandmaster Maurice Ashley's booth, Grandmaster Varuzhan Akobian. Welcome to the show, guys.
Grandmaster Varuzhan Akobian with us now. We should mention that he's been a multi-time member of the Olympic team, one of the strongest grandmasters in the U.S., somebody that some people have pointed to as maybe a favorite to win this event as well with the big boys. Congratulations on your victory today.
Thank you.
You've drawn 2 games and won 1. How are you feeling about your start?
I feel fine. I had 2 long games yesterday, especially. My game was the latest to finish, about 80 moves against Ben Feingold, so it was a very long game. I was slightly better. I tried to win, but he defended very well.
And the start today you had to play against one of the youngest players in the competition. Everyone is going to have to face these young guys. Have you played Caden Trough before?
No, I never played against him.
So first time. What do you think about this youth movement? I mean, it seems like so many young players in the championship this year.
I think it's great. I think it's a fantastic opportunity for them to play in the U.S. Championship this year and experience what is it like to play against grandmasters every game and the strong grandmasters. And I know he's a very talented player and won the U.S. Junior World Youth Championship. So when I was preparing, I tried to play something new that I knew he didn't face before. So this H4 move I tried today. It's a relatively new move. Morozevich played and some other grandmasters, but it's not that much theory. But then he responded very well with the C6, so we were following the Grishuk-Carlson game, and then when I played Bishop G5, he played Queen B6 novelty.
So he surprised you with a new move.
Yeah, I mean, I looked at a lot of the lines, and Carlson played castle in that position, but then he played Queen B6, and I didn't look at this move at all. But I spent about 20 minutes, and I played the way I thought I should play, but I think it was about equal. I don't think I had an advantage. Yeah,
he played some really interesting, unorthodox ideas, taking on H5 and taking on C4. His position it seemed like he had some chances. What happened after that? Where was his big mistake?
I think position was about equal, and we were both spending a lot of time. In fact, I was a bit worried because I didn't have that much time left, and position was still unclear. And then I think the critical moment where he played, when I played the knight G5 move, and he should have just played Bishop H6 here. And I think I have to play F4. Bishop takes G5, F takes G5, and position is probably about equal. But then he played knight C7, and this might be a big mistake because he overlooked. He told me knight takes E6, knight takes E6, Bishop G4.
All right, so knight G5.
Pinning his knight, and that's, I think at that point it's already just losing.
All right, so the fans of far out there, knight G5 is that critical moment when instead of Bishop H6, he played knight C7.
Knight C7, yeah, it was error.
All right, so now it's time to move forward. You haven't lost a game. That can't feel bad, and you got 2 points out of 3. What do you think about now about moving forward in the tournament?
Well, I think the tournament just started, so at this point it's just important to try to play just well every game. I mean, there's some people have more points, but I think there's still 6 more games to go, and a lot of things can change, so you just have to try to take one game at a time.
Professional attitude. Congratulations on your victory today. Best of luck in the rest of the tournament. Grandmaster Varjan Akobian off to a fine start, having not lost a game as yet. One of the favorites to be at the top of the podium at the end of the tournament. Jen and Yas?
Thank you.
A nice victory by Akobian there. Var played very professionally, and as he said, and I found very interesting, was trying to do something to upset the youngster by playing something very, very fresh. Not much theory, H4, and then in turn getting surprised himself with Queen B6. Hate that when it happens like that, huh, Jen?
But a very interesting game. We always like to see people tear apart the Grunfeld rather than sidestep it with C4 or G3, things that some of the anti-Grunfelders like to do.
True that.
Let's take a quick look at Gray of Benjamin, because we shouldn't count out Benjamin. You know, he came into this round with 1.5 points, and you know, theoretically, he could easily be one of the tournament leaders after this round.
Absolutely.
But we haven't checked in on him in a little while. So let's see how this game is going with Timur Garayev.
Well, when we had opened, it was kind of like a Nimzo Indian, where with the move A3 and queen takes C3, white wins the 2 bishops. Joe likes these types of positions. We saw it in the game between, by the way, Garayev and Larry Christensen, where Larry gave up his dark squared bishop, and the players were moving right along, all very standard lines of play for both sides. This move, Bishop H3, by the way, deserves comment. The idea is that White would like to preserve his 2 bishops. White would like to play knight D2, but not allow the trade of bishops.
Yeah, because you don't want to get, I mean, the whole point is you have the 2 bishops, and your opponent has a very solid position. If you give away the 2 bishops, there's your edge.
Right. So Bishop H3, seeking to preserve the 2 bishops, D5, knight D2, and Queen F4. So here I prefer White's position.
Sure.
Knight H5. It's not that big a deal yet. I'm a little surprised with this move C takes D5. I like keeping that tension, and I probably would have just dropped back with my bishop, but maybe Garayev thought the bishop was actually better on H3. So we get a position, And White's still nursing a small advantage. Nothing special at the moment. And we're playing catch up to the board position. I must admit that I think, whoa. Now, for a moment there, it looked like there was a repetition, and Joel avoided the repetition.
Very interesting. All right, so he's trying to
thinking,
hammer on this weakness here, this weakened king position.
Well, he's thinking that his bishop and knight and queen make a better combination of pieces than White's bishop on b2. That is to say, the White bishop on b2 is passive.
And let's not forget that he was controlling the only open file on the board, although Timur took it over with that move queen c4 that we just saw.
Exactly. Now again, I'm okay.
And with White's exposed king, Black wanted no part of trading off queens, especially since it would have allowed Timur to get a beautiful center with a b takes c4. Always a critical moment in games when your opponent offers you that queen trade.
Right.
So now we
careful evaluation of resulting endings. You know, somehow I like Joel's position. I can't.
But the king safety. It's all about the king safety. Wouldn't you rather be Black's king than White's king? Although that's changed a little bit with that queen invading on g5. But it looks like queen d8 check type moves can be decently met by king f7. But then are there perps lurking? Perpetuals lurking, just with queen d7. Like, how are we really just marching that king up the board?
No. I think that from Joel's point of view, what Joel would like to do is after White moves his king, I'm not sure, king g3 or king h3. Let me just take a quick look. The computer actually prefers bishop d2. If I were in Black's shoes, I'd be very attracted to this move, bishop e4. So, as you were mentioning, Jen, I don't want to move my king to f7 rather to h7. So that's why I get that bishop out of the way. And with the move bishop e4, by the way, I'm inviting the trade of bishops, which would leave White's king exposed.
Right. And so the only thing you really have to watch out for in this type of position is that pesky little h6 move threatening checkmate on g7.
Right.
And then after bishop f3, king takes f3, you're going to stop that checkmate. Ah, okay.
With queen f5 check.
But this, you can't imagine that.
That knight on d5 is just a monster. You can't get rid of it.
True, but I mean, you're trying to win this?
Oh gosh, yes. Oh gosh, yes. Oops, excuse me. I was trying to. But king takes f5. I beg
wow. So you think this is plenty for Black?
Well, no. I'm saying
just worth trying.
Definitely, Black takes absolutely no risk in this ending. Maybe he doesn't win it, but he sure as heck has no chances of losing it. There's just no way he's going to lose it. And maybe, if on a very, very sunny day, his king might march.
Now this is your idea of fantasy chess, Yasser.
Yes, exactly.
I like
the long king march. You see that? Look at those arrows, boy.
Good luck with that.
Thank you.
But that's the only way. Just like with our guest earlier, John Bryan. You got to aim high. Otherwise, you're never going to win these. Like squeak these little edges out. So, interesting game here, and it looks like a slight advantage for Benjamin with the better king position, and he's really showing his chops here in his 26th U.S. Chess Championship. And doesn't look like he could have played in 26th U.S. Chess Championships. Although I wonder how many Semyon will have played when
his
he's up there.
Oh my gosh, exactly. At 12? Oh, that's frightening.
So we're gonna take a quick break here from the U.S. Chess Championship, and we'll be right back with the exciting conclusions of our games today. Hello and welcome back to our 2013 U.S. Chess Championship coverage. I'm Jennifer Shahade. I'm here with Yasser Seirawan, and we are closing in on round 3, our 2 key matchups, Anna Zatanski versus Irina Krush in the women's. We certainly like black, but how for her to push forward is what we've been wondering for the last 30 minutes to an hour. And did Irina come up with an idea? The last we checked, they just made time control.
Right. These were the last few moves. B5, knight b6, queen d8, and we mentioned how white's pieces, the queen on g1, bishop on f2, are tied to the defense of the knight on b6. And I really think that this is really crunch time in the round. This is the 3rd, 4th, 5th hours. This is where it's not just mental calculation and ability, but also physical to maintain these high levels of energy you need throughout the entire round. So we're really down to the wire here a bit. B4 I didn't like because that does not help white rescue her knight. I thought B3 and A4 was required. She played B4.
Or you could play A4 and then after knight A4, bishop A5, knight C3. That's like another possibility.
I'm sorry.
You could have also played A4 directly, and if B takes A4, you could recapture, and then after bishop A5, you know, head on back with the knight C3, and that might not be the end of the world. So this is kind of the other possibility to rescue the knight, but the pawn on B2 becomes another potential target. So
right, potential. Whoops, I still get working on my arrows here.
Queen B7 better than Queen B6.
There you have it. But what, on the one hand too, on the king side, these pieces look really nice, but there wasn't a real way for Irina to take advantage of it. So she actually just retreated her knight.
Right.
Perhaps this releases her queen from the defense of the knight, and maybe allows her one day to advance her h-pawn. Again, this white's king in the corner, it's discomforting to me, at least, but that's
absolutely,
okay.
but it's
That's
still tricky to figure out where the pieces are going to invade. So we're going to be keeping a close eye on this game, and I have to say, it looks like time pressure is going to become a problem again, because it's been about 20 minutes since time control, even more probably about 30 minutes, and they've only made one move.
Well, yes, it might. Time trouble might rear its ugly head. Here's a thought from Black's point of view. How do you like this as a concept, just as a concept, mind you? So you have to make a move with white, Jen. So we just say A3 for a moment. Just here's the thought that was floating around my noggin, is this idea that because our knight has dropped back, it helps protect our king, but with this move, queen c8, I've released my queen, so I can invade with idea of grabbing pawns, and that looks very unpleasant for
Juicy
Anna.
indeed. Yeah, she's going to have to really squirm to get out of that. You know, she can't let everything happen at once.
Well, exactly.
And we see kind of pretty variations even on the horizon. Like I'm imagining queen takes e1, queen e1, bishop g2 check, and knight takes f3.
Right.
It seems like there are ways for Black's position to just harmonize and bring in a potential victory. But again, I think time pressure is going to be an issue. It's been one move since time control, and they both used what looks like 20 minutes. I understand it's a critical position, and they've probably been looking into the horizon to see what's going to come, but I still think that's a very impractical decision.
Right. Okay. I'm liking Irina's position more and more. I always thought that this bishop on h3 was going to be a monster bishop, and it's turned out to be the case. So.
And in time pressure, it's certainly going to be harder for Anna to play. Now we have another victor from the women's championship, Irina Zenyuk, who lost to Irina Krush yesterday. Won today against Victoria Ni and now has 2 points, and she is with Maurice Ashley.
Indeed, Irina Zenyuk, congratulations on your victory today.
Thank you.
How'd you feel about the game?
I thought I had a comfortable edge for the whole game, and then we both got into time trouble, and there was like scramble happened, and like like all those crazy variations, but I managed to come with decisive advantage after that time scramble.
You're mentioning that. It seems like a common theme in this tournament. Everybody's getting into time pressure. It's like Scramble City here. Is it something about the time control that's causing this?
I think partially right, but I think also because it's such a high stakes games and preparation, and you just want to figure out what's where your opponent wants you to go to, and it takes time actually to do that.
Now, Jen mentioned that you lost to your good friend Irina Krush yesterday. What is it like playing against such a great friend of yours? She said you were probably her best friend in the world.
That's right.
That must be tough.
That's same for me. Actually, when I play, it's very hard because I really need that determination, almost like anger against my opponent to play well. But against Irina, I mean, she's my best friend. I cannot do that. She's just, and I'm rooting for her in this tournament too. I really want her to win too.
Right.
So it was hard, but well, she played really well yesterday, so I cannot blame.
And now you're at 2 out of 3, and now you know maybe there are 2 clear favorites in this tournament as we see, but 2 out of 3 is nothing to sneeze at. What do you feel about your chances to win the tournament?
Well, I'll take one game at a time, as Irina said, and we'll see.
All right, indeed. Well, congratulations on your victory
Thank you.
today, and wish you the best in further games.
Thank you, Maurice.
Irina Zenyuk on 2 out of 3, a great score to start the tournament. Back to you, Jen and Yas.
All right, great to hear from Irina Zenyuk. And every time I see Irina, she seems to be smiling, and
she's enjoying herself.
Exactly. It's good to have fun when you're playing chess, especially you know, she has a engineering career outside chess. So for her, probably analyzing 20 moves deep is actually easier.
Yikes! That's a horrible thought.
It's a break. It's a mental break. Can you imagine?
Right.
Well, we do have a big result in. Halt has defeated Alejandro Ramirez, and that means that Conrad Halt has got 2.5 points.
My goodness.
So he's up there with John Bryant. Grandmaster Conrad Halt also has 2.5 points, just like John Bryant. And if Kamsky does not win today, they will be tied for the lead. Yeah, or if the game between Kamsky and Christensen is not decisive.
Well, as Maurice was mentioning, Alejandro, he went for it with the Benko Gambit as black, gambiting material in order to attain an early initiative, but he must have got outplayed later in the game. I'm still mesmerized, by the way, to everybody. On the first board, we have the game between Gada Kamsky and Larry Christensen. Both players undefeated, perfect scores. We have an exchange up for Gada Kamsky, which is usually decisive. In fact, Larry doesn't even have a pawn as compensation, but he has these fabulous 2 bishops, and the computer is not giving White the big advantage that you would expect from being an exchange up. Let's go to this game and see what has happened. The players have reached this point, and this is where Larry's bishop came to that nice square f3, keeping that f2 pawn, White's only passed pawn in the position, stuck on its original square, and we have a check, and I'm pretty much expecting the move king c2 here. And now you just have to be careful not to allow these checkmates. This would be a horrible move, of course, to allow rook to b8 checkmate. But from White's perspective, he would love to play rook f4 with that double threat of the back rank mate as well as attacking the bishop. So perhaps a move like rook back to f6 to just maintain that bishop on f3. And, well, now the computer likes the position a little bit more for White. It looks to be a tough technical grind in my view. And it's the type of position that Gada loves, the technical play. Still, I just don't see exactly. Let me see why the computer thinks that this position is so good for.
It is an endgame, so sometimes in these types of endgames, its calculations aren't as to be trusted as in the tactical melees.
Well, yeah, it's very interesting. It reckons that It's because of this move rook g5 that white angles for a rook f5 trading, and I guess the computer is not afraid of losing this f2 pawn, because once again with the knight on f5 there is that rook b8 check and mate concept. So in other words, well, I just need to make a move. Let's say I made a move like this, we get this position. This is what I'm saying, that you can't grab this pawn on f2 because the king is still mated at the back rank.
Oh, you're not going after just winning a piece with rook f4?
No, I wasn't going after the piece with rook f4. So this is why the computer reckons that this bishop on f3, which is excellently placed, cannot be maintained due to this rook g5 to f5 idea. And that's correct.
Well, to be fair, the computer doesn't really think. It's just plugged in and...
Yeah, it goes through its algorithm and it comes out with a formula answer.
Well, we are going to be continually keeping an eye on this Kamsky-Christensen game, and we do have a big winner in the U.S. Chess Championship. In addition to John Bryant, who climbed his score to 2.5 with a win over Gregory Kaidanov, Conrad Halt has defeated Grandmaster Alejandro Ramirez to jump up into the same group, 2.5 out of 3. And he is with Grandmaster Maurice Ashley to talk about his victory.
Thanks, Jen. Well, 19-year-old Grandmaster Conrad Halt with 2.5 points out of 3, defeating Alejandro Ramirez today. Congratulations on your result.
Thank you.
Did you expect to see a Benko gambit today? I mean, Benko is one of those sharp opening, sacrifice a pawn. The guy's trying to beat you usually when he plays it.
I mean, I didn't really expect it. I mean, he's played tons of Benko gambits, and he made a DVD about it and stuff. But I thought, he might avoid it because, I was going to be prepared. And I thought, maybe he wants to play it, more against opponents who have no time to prepare or lower rated. So I was a little bit surprised that he actually played it.
So when he did you feel comfortable out the opening? You felt your preparation was sound?
Yeah.
So then at some point it seemed like the game turned very sharp, very near the end, and all of a sudden it was over. I thought it was going to be a little bit more of a fight. Did you think, what happened actually at the end? Did he just blunder or what happened?
I mean, I guess after Queen c4 it seems like I should probably win pretty quickly. So, I mean, I guess he should have moved his king somewhere other than f7.
I see, so he lined up his king. Well, you're one of the youngest players in the tournament. It seems like there's been a real youth movement in this event. We've seen John Bryant, who's not as young as you are, but he's doing really well at 2.5. What were your expectations coming into the event? This is your first U.S. championship as well, right?
Yeah. I didn't have very high expectations, because I'm distracted by working on these final exams that I've got.
Another collegian. Yeah. Where do you go to school?
University of Texas at Dallas.
That's right. Okay. So you didn't prepare much at all. We've seen a lot of the collegiate players go down in flames having not prepared for this tournament. How are you holding up?
I'm still having some time to prepare, for a couple of hours at least. And, but maybe it's, just a good thing that I'm not just sitting there analyzing for 5 hours straight or something.
Indeed. So now you're sitting at 2.5 out of 3. Are you thinking you could win this whole thing, maybe?
No. I'm sure you'll start blundering at some point.
Wow, I doubt it.
I'm not usually very consistent.
Well, you are a grandmaster. You got 2.5 points. We expect great things of you, and already off to a fantastic start, so congratulations.
Thank you.
Grandmaster Conrad Halt, 19-year-old hope for American chess, doing really well. Back to Jen and Yaz.
Well,
it sure feels good at 2.5 half. I tell you, playing in a U.S. championship, scoring that heavily at his youth, American chess is looking very, very good.
Indeed.
Very promising. We've got a generation of really superb talents, and Conrad impressing me.
Yes, and it's interesting to see his diametrically opposed response to the question of, how do you think you're going to do? And the truth is that there are many different psychological approaches that work, and there are some people who feel that, being too optimistic can put too much pressure on you. Because then if you do lose, you get really upset, and it's better just to, even have low expectation. Now that's rare. Usually the opposite approach works a little better, but whatever works for people.
Exactly. Whatever floats your boat.
And as we get Grandmaster Joel Benjamin set up, let's peek again at the Zatansky Crush game, because something a little strange that I don't think we predicted has happened in that game. Somehow Zatansky ended up with her bishop on a5.
Okay, so
which doesn't seem like a good square.
It was just, we had left it, the players had made their time control, and we did see this idea I had mentioned, Jen, which was to capture this knight, and then just with this sly little move, queen c8, what black is intending to do is break down here
an invasion.
An invasion.
So Anna's trying to fight back, maybe with an invasion of her own, some counterplay here. When she plays the move bishop to a5, one of the points is that she may be able to start some checks of her own. But that being said, it better be a perpetual if she's going to go for it, because queen f1, if the queen strays too far, will just be checkmate.
Precisely. So I don't think those perpetual checks are really going to exist. Especially
the knight will be able to block, yeah.
Right. I mean, if we just, for example, just trot our king over here to the h6 square, there's no more checks. That knight is a great defender. And as you mentioned, you can't allow queen f1 mate.
So we can't stray to try to nibble on the d6 pawn. So
we'd
definitely
have to come back, yeah.
Definitely a dominant position for Irina, but that being said, it still seems like Anna's trying to hold it together, and both with fewer than 5 minutes left on the clock.
No
just
way.
6 moves after time control has been reached. So we're going to see them play this interesting position on the 30-second increment. And now let's move over to Grandmaster Joel Benjamin, who is off to a good start in the U.S. Chess Championship, has 2 out of 3, and he is with Grandmaster Maurice Ashley.
Well, a real veteran of these U.S. championships, Grandmaster Joel Benjamin has played in 26 of them. Amazing, amazing. And you've won how many? 3?
3.
You've won 3. Well, congratulations on your draw today.
Thank you.
You started off pretty solidly. You haven't lost a single game so far in the event. What do you think is the secret to playing well at the U.S. Championship? I mean, you've been in 26 of them.
Well, I've done it for the most part in the U.S. Championship. It gets tougher when you get older and you have children and you have to teach and do things for money, and you don't get to spend as much time as you like working on your own game. So I was a little apprehensive coming here, but I'm very relieved to get off to a good start, and I played a very tough field, already the 2nd and 3rd ranked players in the event. So I'm very pleased how it started so far.
Now, you mentioned getting older. We see the championship getting younger. There's like a youth movement going on. We have 12-year-olds playing in the tournament. I mean, that just never happened before. What do you feel about these youngsters that are playing?
Well, let me tell you a little personal story. When I set the record for most consecutive U.S. championships played in, you know, the all-time record,
which was 23.
No,
you meant?
But it was something like 15 or 16 when it was the record.
It was set.
When I got the record, I was something like the 2nd youngest player in the field after playing in all those.
Wow.
So in the old days, it would just be a lot of old men, and thankfully that's turned around. And this year it's very interesting because we're finding that some of the young stars that we know about, you know, like Ray Robson and Sam Shankland, you know, now they're having trouble with these new guys who've just arrived on the scene.
It's incredible.
So
they're the older generation of youngsters.
You go from being the hunter to the hunted very quickly.
Indeed. And you played Timur Gureyev today, a 2nd ranked player. You played a 33-board simul, a blindfold simul before playing in this tournament. I doubt that's a recipe for winning, for preparing for a U.S. championship.
Well, it certainly shows he's got a photographic memory, because he lost, I think, 4 games in the simul, and I don't think that I could play 4 games blindfold at the same time, let alone win all the other ones. But yeah, he's a very tough player. I've never played him before. I've only actually even been in 1 tournament with him, and he certainly is an interesting character. The main thing about the game today, and what I was most afraid of, was the fact that he played very fast in the opening. He had a huge lead on the clock, and that was what concerned me, that I might make a mistake running low on time. Otherwise, my position was pretty okay most of the way.
Now, we're seeing that happen a lot in this tournament. Players are getting into time pressure time and time again, blundering pieces in decent-looking positions. What is up with this time control? Is this a problem for the players?
Well, I can speak for myself. I'm a slow player. You know, I just don't make decisions as efficiently as I should. I hedge a little bit too much, and I know that to play at another level, I have to play faster. But it hasn't been so bad so far. To me, the real issue is after the first time control, when you get 30 minutes on your clock plus the increment for the rest of the game, and sometimes the game is not really clarified that much, and you're still in a very complicated position. Sometimes after the first time control, you want to take 20 minutes on the next move just to figure it out. And you can't. You got to hit the ground running after that first time control and play quick moves. It's really difficult.
Indeed. Well, you've managed it so far so well. You've got 2 out of 3. What do you feel about your chances moving forward in the competition?
Well, I feel pretty good. I think that Gada Kamsky is a heavy favorite here, but beyond him, I think that my chances could be as good as anyone else as long as I'm in good form, I'm getting enough rest and feeling good, and who knows what could happen.
Well, we hope the best for you in the rest of your games. Congratulations on your result today.
Thanks very much, Maurice.
3-time U.S. champion, veteran of 26 of these events, and I should add, native New Yorker, Joel Benjamin. Back to you, Jen and Yas.
Thank you.
Does that give you an edge, being a native New Yorker? You're
I'm
actually
not.
native
I'm
Philadelphia,
although I lived in New York for many years.
Mm-hmm.
Philadelphia, New York, it's kind of the next borough, they say. Philadelphia.
I like that.
It's an hour and a half away from the Big Apple.
But I think Joel made a very interesting point there, is that even after you made the time control, you still have these very, very complex positions, and you've only got 30 minutes with the bonus to make your decisions, and we're seeing that.
Speaking
in the
of
arena,
which, yeah,
arena's game.
let's move back to that actually. Although actually
Absolutely.
they're also putting Kamsky and Christensen on the webcam, which is another game we have to keep an eye on. But whoa, did this really just happen? Knight G4?
Yes,
So
indeed
Queen
it has.
G1 check followed by Knight G4. What's up with that?
Well, let's get to
I think
it.
there was some issues with Bishop D8 if King H6 was played. So
We have
I was
seen
thinking about a little bit of counterplay going on there for White.
exactly.
We should maybe move to the final position. Yeah. So this is where we were before, right?
Right. We
Yeah.
had that threat of Queen F1 check, as you remember.
Because they're both down to minutes here. So.
Oh wow! So Queen came back to stop the check. Knight came to F6. Queen check. So clearly, Anna is hoping for a repetition, hoping for a perpetual check. Irina says no.
Oh,
I'm not giving it to
juicy!
you.
Knight G4.
Knight G4.
Very nice move. So if Anna doesn't take that,
Doesn't?
if she doesn't, the knight looks like it's going to be headed to E3, or maybe no. I guess Irina would just play Queen E2, huh? With the idea of Knight F2, and that would just be brutal. So she'll be compelled to take it after that move.
At a certain moment, there's no way you can live with the knight on G4. Agreed.
So
let's just take
taking
it.
on G4 seems right, and now this is brutal to have to deal with in time pressure. Like whoa, those pawns are coming at her, and the E4 pawn is hanging, and it looks like they've played some moves. Irina looks like she's got a few minutes left on her clock, and Anna down to just a couple minutes.
All right.
And
let
it's
me get
looking
updated on the move.
pretty dire here.
She has captured on G4. Knight G4 captures. Queen captures E4. Oop, I beg your pardon. Queen captures E4 check has been played. And you heard me harping on the fact that this king was stuck in the corner. This has become a serious liability. Knight G2 only move to block the check. And now, oh boy, there's the human move is just to take here, but the reality is there's also ideas like F3
Although
followed by
F3,
F2.
allowing Knight H4, I don't know if we want to allow Knight H4 and Queen F2 maybe. So yeah, taking on G4 Oh, I mean, probably Irina just has a number of options here. It looks like this knight g4 move was the killer that Anna might have missed.
Yes, I don't see exactly how she could have prevented it. However, if your opponent moves her knight around and plays for g4, this looks like a killer attack for Irina Krush, defending champion.
This would be a big statement. You know, Irina Krush coming into the tournament with a Grandmaster performance a couple months ago, and Anna Zatonski saying that she's actually not been playing that well recently, that she's dropped some rating points. You know, usually Anna is slightly higher rated than Irina, and I think in this tournament Irina came in just a few points higher rated. So perhaps Irina is now just really vying for that top spot.
Well, no doubts about it. This is it. And again, it's physical preparation and everything. This is where the points are scored in this, the 4th and 5th hour of play, because you just get tired and your mind has been ramping up at so many RPMs for so long. And I think the position is just bad, just plain bad for Anna, as she's struggling, desperately searching for a way out of her difficulties. But this pin is devastating to begin with, and finally also just another pawn to be captured. I'm supposing a move like Queen F2, just to try to escape this terrible pin, would be most likely. And let's see, did she play it? She has played Queen F2. And now black to play. I mean, would you be tempted? I sure would, just to capture.
Keep
this
nibbling
pawn
and make it. Yeah, just keep nibbling. Why not? Right.
Right. Well,
I mean, and then you're threatening just Queen D1 check, followed by Queen G1, Bishop G2, and a pretty little smothered mate there with Queen F3. Can we put that on the board?
Okay, so we're saying Queen takes D5.
And then just play like, I guess, play a, well, that might ruin it.
One.
Just play like Bishop D8 or something.
Okay, I'll play my bishop to attack this pawn. And you had spotted a checkmate.
Yes, I just like showing these pretty little mates. Reminds me of something we looked at the other day.
Jennifer, do the honors.
And now we have Queen to F3 with the unusual smothered mate, the Queen on G1, stopping the king from escape.
Exactly. No squares for the king to run.
That's just one thing though. But after Queen takes D5, you're just also making it easy for yourself. It's true that the computer might find other lines that are even quicker, but when you just keep taking off all the pawns, you know that probably almost every move is going to win at some point. I mean, this is just indefensible for Anna Zatonski, and she's just going down in this game, 100%, right?
I would agree. I'm expecting King G1, and here's one just to make it a clean technical takeout. If you even just trade everything, and then you play with these 3 pawns against this bishop, I think that is also likely to bring victory. These pawns march like ants up the board, and I don't see exactly how white could ever stop them. I don't think she can. Well, so Irina Krush winning with the black pieces is a
fantastic victory.
Result.
Fantastic victory and moving herself to 3-0. And I expect that we will see a very smiling Irina Krush coming down here soon.
A question for you.
Yes.
If I'm just saying, and I don't think it's going to happen, if Irina Krush was to score a perfect result against the field, is there a big bonus pool for
No,
her?
it's for the U.S. Chess Championship. I think the differential in skill strength in the women's, it would be far more likely.
I see.
I mean, we do have scores like 8. We had 8.5 one year, and it's 8 the other year. So I don't even
Close enough for a perfect score.
I don't think it would be that. I think probably it's almost like 50 times more likely to happen in the women's. Like probably in the championship, it must be like a fraction of a percent. In the women's, I wouldn't be surprised if it's like 3% chance.
Okay.
But that's just a
still tough.
I mean,
Still hard to do that.
3% is not that much, but
No.
I mean, there's plenty of tough players in there. But it's pretty clear that Irina and Anna are the top dogs in the section, and Irina getting the better in this game, and very nice opening choice by Irina.
Queen takes D5.
Seems to be dominating this position.
Was played, and we do have this as the last move. Queen C2, check to the black king. Irina just dropped back with her king, with king to g7, and said, deal with my threats. My threat of grabbing this knight on g2. And I think that's all she wrote. One more check for the road, but that would be about it. Check, king h6, you got to come back and defend the knight, and then that liquidation idea would be good enough. The players are moving. Time trouble is the issue.
This game does look in the bag, though, so let's take a look at our other key game of the day between Gata Kamsky and Larry Christensen.
Well, Gata's made tremendous headway. When we left it, Maurice and I had been talking it over with Rex Sinkfeld. It wasn't easy at all for Gata to make the most out of his exchange. When we left it in a position like this, and Gata, I tell you, he's such a great technical player. He really put the pressure on Larry and managed to trade rooks. That was a big technical accomplishment. Now Gata can concentrate with his own passed pawn. Larry is not going down without a fight. He played h5, knight jumped to d5, and this is how things have progressed. Notice how Gata took the time to bring his king all the way across the board just to keep this little criminal over here on h4 under lock and key. Knight e3, king back, defending the bishop. Knight f5, that's a big move. Pawn is defended, but now it's under a double attack. Bishop f6, and Gata to play. The computer considers white as having an advantage of 2.28 pawns. That is usually decisive, I'm afraid to say, for fans of Larry Christensen. I include myself. When I say that, material counts, doesn't it?
Yeah, so Gata Kamsky, if he wins this game, will be 3-0 in the field, and looking out for that Fisher $64,000 prize.
Absolutely. Well, the move that makes the most sense to me, Rook A4, strangely enough, is only the second choice of the computer. I would for sure bang out this move, Rook A4, with the double threat of attacking the pawn on A7 as well as his pawn on H4. And I would think that white is well on his way to victory after this move, Rook A4.
Very, very nice. And we also have a result. Shanklin won his game against Ivanov. So Sam Shanklin not off to the best start in this tournament, but did win with black against Ivanov, who's a great theoretician.
Nice. And again, sorry, Jen, to go back to the game.
Oh, no
number
problem.
one.
Go back to our big game here.
But we do have
plenty dear. Of moves. Rook
A4 was banged down. Bishop D5 came B4. So obviously Gata is eyeballing that pawn on A7.
And they're moving quickly here.
Bishop E6, Rook A6. How's that? That's a nice move.
Trying to get rid of one of those bishops. Why not?
Lined up
there. And it looks like King F7 allows all sorts of pesky checks, including just grabbing the pawn with check.
Including King. So have they played King F7? I see from the webcam that
they've got some moves that have been played. Yeah.
Gata has been playing quite quickly, and King F7 was made.
And then it looks like rook takes A7 and knight E7 check played.
Very good. And we've got this position as Larry responded to the knight E7 check. He's about to move his king. I believe he played King G5.
And yeah, just this B pawn now ready to roll.
King G5, Rook came check.
Are they playing so quickly, you think? This is a bit unusual. Maybe they're playing so quickly just because Larry doesn't really feel like resigning but wants to get a few moves in. And the game is over. And it looks like Gata Kamsky 3-0 in the U.S. Chess Championship. Interesting game there by Christensen, but slipped up a couple times, two times many for our top seed in the tournament, Gata?
Well, I think the critical moment was pegged early by Maurice when he mentioned that Larry had this beautiful pirouette with his knight. It was just after Gata had played the move g4, which weakened the f4 square, and Larry could have played knight d4 back to knight c6 to d4 and knight d4 back to e6. And I liked Larry's position exactly at that moment. He missed that one moment. You know, it's like these guys, these world-class grandmasters, they only give you one moment in each game, and once you miss that opportunity, I think Larry was just taken out.
Well, it's interesting that you say that because it seems like Gata gave the knight d5 opportunity in the game against Troth, and then the knight d4 game in the other one. And let's check on Anna Zatonski and Irina Krush with Maurice Ashley. Oh, we are actually going to take it ourselves. Anna Zatonski and Irina Krush. Here we go.
Okay, when we
what's going on here? When we last left,
it was this. Sorry.
Irina snagged the pawn on d5.
And it was queen c2 check.
Queen c2 check.
King g7, bishop c7, and Irina played f4, f3 with a devastating threat of capturing this knight. And she couldn't move her knight because you're the one who likes checkmate so much. Show us the checkmate that Black could execute after knight e3.
Oh, so just play f2 here, sacrificing the queen.
But your queen's attacked. Jen.
Go ahead and take it. And now I would like to make a rook.
Oh, not girls' chess, but a rook. Okay, I like that.
Ran out of queens.
Under promotion. Very nice.
And now the material does not matter.
Check and mate to the white queen.
And we've actually got a Kamsky here in the studio. 3-0 result. And we're going to get him set up and hear from our front runner at the U.S. Chess Championship, who is wearing the color of the day, purple. So.
And we do have a situation where Irina has won.
Irina is also, the game is over.
Yes.
Krush Zatonski also over, so Irina Krush joining Gata Kamsky with 3-0, and looks like they're the only two 3-0s in the events.
Impressive. Both players. Both players, #1 seeds, they've earned that title moniker as the best in U.S. chess.
All right, and now let's. And we're going to take a quick tweet from an audience member, from Zach Haskin, who points out that round 3 isn't over and my bracket is already shattered. He's referring to fantasy chess. My roommate who barely plays chess is crushing me. Maybe 2014, hashtag US Chess Champs. This reminds me of all the sports fans, a lot of male sports fans who get their girlfriends to sign up for the NCAA polls, and
the girlfriends win.
Always win.
I
yes.
hate that. I hate that, Jennifer, as you know.
It's the women's touch, and here we go with we got Gata Kamsky and Maurice Ashley.
And we are here with our only perfect score in the men's event. Gata Kamsky sitting at 3-0. Congratulations on your victory.
Thank you.
Gata, this looked like a tough game. How did you manage to pull this out?
Okay, that's not a fair question. I mean, we both played and we tried really hard. I think in the opening, I gave Black a little bit too much because I think Larry was playing for a win at some point. And but I remember that you know, I had to exchange the queens, so we went into this long maneuvering endgame. And at some point things became really interesting because when I took on c5 and he played knight f4, I realized that Black has decent compensation for the pawn, and we were running very short on time. So I think the critical mistake was when Black decided to sacrifice an exchange on his last move on the time control.
Right at move 40, he sacrificed an exchange.
Exactly.
We see that mistake happen quite a bit. Critical decisions right there.
Right, and if Black would just play something normal, I think the game would be a draw. I mean, probably he was playing for a win, but I wasn't sure because I missed some of his strong moves like f5 and knight e6, and then you know, I was thinking to myself, damn, this is going to be a really tough game. And of course, once I had an extra exchange, and then it was a a matter of technique, sort of like to find the right squares for the pieces, and the end game was, of course, winning for white.
So you're sitting at 3-0. I mean, you couldn't have dreamt of a better start. This is a perfect start for you. How are you feeling about your chances moving forward?
Well, I take one game at a time, as we all do, because we're all professionals here. And I'm just looking forward to play more games, you know, because I feel that I'm getting more practiced.
You also look more rested as well. Have you gotten your sleep in? Because you were jet lagged coming here, but it looks like you've maybe got enough sleep in to play.
No, okay. Yes, you're right. I was actually just sleeping all day and not really preparing for the game, because I realized that against Larry we're going to play a long game, and what's going to matter is the amount of energy and who's going to be left standing at the end. That's about it.
And you are indeed the one standing at the end. Congratulations on your start and your win today.
Thank you.
Grandmaster Gadakamsky, a true professional, 3-time champ, looking to add to his laurels. Off to a perfect start. Jen and Yas?
Yes, fantastic start by Gada Kamsky, and you know, it looks like tomorrow we're probably going to see Gada face off against Conrad Halt or John Bryant. I mean, those are the only two with 2.5 points, so that should be an interesting matchup.
Yeah, they're both the young kids nipping at his heels, a half a point behind. But once again, I have to say, very, very professional, smooth job. Great takeout by Gada. He really looks like the class in the field, which he is. And he's proving it in exemplary fashion. And he's right on the mark there with that exchange sacrifice, just coming at the end of the time control. I'm sure if Larry had a few extra minutes, I don't know exactly what the time trouble situation was like, but making a critical decision just at the end of the first time control turned out to be, unfortunately for Larry, the wrong one. I regret that Maurice, he missed the opportunity to ask Gada if he had seen that knight d4, knight e6 idea, because that would have been very interesting.
Well, we have a lot of other interviews here, though.
Of course.
We got Mike Klein doing things for the website. So uschesschamps.com, it's not just the 6 hours a day or 5 hours a day. Right. You can spend the rest of your 5 hours reading up on what's going to happen tomorrow.
First-hand reports and more interviews, absolutely. But I do hope that somebody catches Gada and asks him about that knight pirouette, because it's a pretty one.
Oh, it really was. We got so many pretty variations today on both sides of the spectrum. The strategic knight d4, which is obviously combined with tactics, but also has a strategic point to that gorgeous variation from the Strapunski game, where there could have been a knight h7.
Oh,
yeah, that was really nice.
Oh, that would have been beautiful.
And
well, sure
we also have a win in Camilla Beinskite, who started out with 0 out of 2, and you know, suffered some tough games in the first 2 rounds, but she won against Sabina Foiser, so nice to see her getting on the scoreboard.
Uh-oh, poor Sabina. That's her 3rd loss on the trot. And how is our young competitor, Sarah Xiang doing against
let's check in with Sarah Xiang. Oh, looks like that game is already over. Angelina Belikovskaya now has 2 points out of 3. And interestingly enough, that game is actually ending as we speak. It's interesting that Angelina might be one of the main persons to challenge Crush in this tournament.
Well, exactly. I mean, wily veteran coming back to play professionally, looking very good at 2 out of 3. Very impressive. Is it just me, or is this is a bloodthirsty round? I mean, there's a lot of
Bloody Sunday.
Yeah, bloody Sunday. I mean, I've got on table 1, 2, and 3 decisive results. White winning all the games on 1, 2, and 3. Only Joel Benjamin managing to hold the black pieces on board 4. White's wins by Akobian and Onishuk on 5 and 6. I mean, wow, devastating. Lots of wins.
A really fun round, yeah. And we just saw so many cool things this round. The Marshall attack, and Larry Christensen, Gada Kamsky, you know, butting heads, and it was a really cool round. Every round so far has been great, and I think they're going to get even bloodier as the tournament progresses, if that's possible.
And
I don't know if it's possible.
And you're not going to believe this. I think Maurice pegged it as well. In that game between Alex Strapinski and Ray Robson, Alex is going to be kicking himself that he didn't find that beautiful tactical variation that Maurice showed. But remarkably, the queen overwhelmed the rook and 2 knights, and Ray Robson, one of the pre-tournament dark horses, shall we say, crashed to defeat again. Another win for white here in round 3.
I think Ray got in by ratings. I don't think, maybe he was a dark horse in terms of like winning the whole tournament.
I meant in terms of winning the whole tournament.
Right, gotcha. So, yeah, pretty fascinating round, and there's a couple games still going on. We got
look at all these wins.
We just got Hessen-Norwitz. Hessen-Norwitz is the only remaining game. And how's that looking? As we get Irina Crusher set up in studio, that game just ended too. That ended in a draw. So Hessen-Norwitz, one of the only games in the tournament that wasn't decisive. Incredible.
Well, exactly. This is a round where only 3 of the games in the men's section were drawn.
And now and the women's championship bloody as ever, and we have international master Irina Krush with Maurice Ashley to talk about her latest victory in the women's.
Indeed, a tremendous fight, a tremendous victory for Irina Krush. Congratulations on your finish.
Thank you, Maurice.
Well, she was your main rival in the tournament. She's been your main rival for years now.
Yeah.
What were you feeling going into the game, knowing that you had to play her?
You know, I don't have any special feelings going into these games, Maurice. I'm just trying to do my best every game.
It's really that simple, right?
I know, it's like the most boring answer I could possibly give you. But it's true, like, I mean, okay, I felt like this game was, of course, more important than some other games. It's supposed to be a little bit harder, you know, because, of course, Anna is, you know, also one of the highest rated players here. So you're expecting the game to be like a tougher fight, and you're black.
Isn't she the highest rated player, or are you beating her out by a little?
I think maybe now I'm a couple of points higher or something with a new rating list, but, you know, before that she was 1 point higher than me. You know, it's pretty close. So yeah, I was expecting this to be a tough game. The idea was to play something solid, and if I get a chance, to try to win. So I chose the King's Indian.
And so you chose the King's Indian, not exactly the most solid opening, giving her all that space.
Yeah.
But you definitely was a great maneuvering game, and you guys battled all the way through. And at some point, you played this fantastic move, Knight G4. That must have felt good dropping that on the board.
Yeah, I had seen that coming a little while ago because I saw that she really didn't have much of a plan. Okay, you know, can't blame her. She didn't have much to do in that position. But so I saw she was going for these checks, and I saw Queen G1. I was like, oh, Knight G4, interesting opportunity, because all the time I realized in that position my queen is perfect, my bishop is perfect, and so my knight has to be improved in order for me to break through. So I was actually looking for a way to maybe get my knight to G5, you know, target E4 and F3 without it being attacked by the queen in any way, like it would be on H4. So I had seen all these possible sacrifices of the knight for 2 pawns, given that the dark squared bishop was not going to be able to help her. And at that moment, yeah, I saw Knight G4. I mean, I wasn't expecting her to take it. I thought, you know, Knight G2 was kind of a better chance to sort of, you know, linger on.
The computer agrees with you that Knight G2 is more of a tough
fight. Yes,
it
didn't seem completely clear to me. In fact, I kind of missed it when I played Knight G4. You know, then I saw it and I started calculating, and when she took on G4, I was pretty surprised.
Indeed. You had, I believe, Easter yesterday, or was
it's
it
today,
last day?
Today.
It's today, but
yes.
You're Russian Orthodox?
Yeah.
And so you were out until 2:30 in the morning at services.
Right.
How did you manage to get energy after being out so late and prepare and do all that you had to do?
Actually, Maurice, I got back at 1 a.m. I went, I didn't stay for the entire service, you know, in sort of consideration of the fact that I had to play today and I couldn't just sleep in. So that was my compromise. You know, I went to church about, the driver picked me up at 10:15 and I got back around 1. And it's funny, on the way back, my taxi driver, you know, he picks me up at church and, you know, he sits silently for a while and he's like, so can I ask you a question? And I'm like, go ahead. He's like, do you believe in God? I thought it was really funny. I had a feeling what he felt about it, you know. But so then we had a whole conversation about that when he explained to me that he was an atheist and, you know, how does the Bible explain the dinosaurs and things like that.
Wow, so yeah, there's a great midnight conversation when you're supposed to be thinking about chess.
Yeah, I don't mind it, you know. If someone wants to talk about that, that's a good thing.
So now you're sitting at 3-0. What are your thoughts moving forward?
To keep adding points. You know, I just want to keep playing well. I feel like since the first round, like I said, I played better yesterday. I played pretty well today. And I just want to keep that going, keep that momentum going, and not give anyone an easy time.
Is it hard to not look too far ahead? I mean, after beating your main rival, especially we in the press are saying that is your main rival.
Yeah.
Is it hard to keep that perspective on, well, I just have to play round 4 and
you know what's
that's
funny, Maurice? I don't even know who I'm playing tomorrow. I only looked 3 days ahead because I knew these 3 days would be the toughest for me just in terms of the schedule, because it was Holy Week and I spent a lot of time in church, less time for preparing. So these days were pretty tough, and so I only kind of saw this far. So I'm not even sure who I'm playing tomorrow. It's kind of like a new tournament begins, again tomorrow.
Very professional attitude. Well, congratulations on your victory today, and best of luck in the rest of the tournament.
Thank you.
Irina Krush at 3-0, the only perfect score in the women's event. Back to you, Jen and Yas.
Well, Irina is going to be playing against Angelina Belakovskaya with the white pieces, so
We'll give
there
her
you
a
go.
Heads up. We'll give her a heads up.
Well, Angelina has 2 out of 3 now, actually, so that should be a very interesting battle as well, and one that we're going to keep a close eye on.
Absolutely.
So, yes, Irina Krush and Gata Kamsky emerging as clear leaders in the U.S. Championships and U.S. Women's Chess Championships today. And boy, did we have a lot of fun today. Grandmasters Yasser Seirawan, Maurice Ashley, and all these fantastic guests. We had visiting guests and our usual grandmasters coming down to talk about their games. I had a lot of fun today. If you missed some of it, we do have replays of the round-by-round coverage on uschesschamps.com. So, especially for the coming days when some of you might have to go to work and you want to see the whole show, you can get that after the broadcast, which is a great service. uschesschamps.com. Keep it bookmarked for these 2 weeks.
Absolutely, and a big shout out and thanks to our Susan Polgar, our visiting women's world champion, and also to all of our guests who just came to watch a great event here in St. Louis. Thank you all.
Absolutely, students from Lindenwood, and of course all the players who like to come downstairs and get drilled by Maurice before they start preparing for their next game. So thanks to all the producers and to the Chess Club, and we will see you tomorrow for more from the U.S. Chess Championships, and 1 o'clock local time, 2 p.m. Eastern.
Thank you, Jen.